welcome back to another episode of Day 54. I'm Amit, joined by Kathy, joined by Melanie. The crew's back together. How you guys going?
Good.
Great.
Excited to be back on your channel.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're gonna release this one, you know.
I know. Glad you suggested it. I was very happy to watch it.
Yeah, no. This was a really interesting movie. We're reviewing Amen. The divine drama, divine comedy, the religious Christian. Probably, I think for me, I think the first so heavily invested religious movie. Probably not the first.
Yeah.
I've seen. There's one other movie which I'm going to compare this to a bit later on, which this reminded me of, especially with the ending. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie. It didn't come in with too many expectations, but knowing that it was a bit of a lighter tone from what I had seen in the trailers. Fahadh Faasil doesn't seem like he's playing a serious character in this movie. It looked like a more lighthearted. The general feel of the movie felt very different to what I've seen. But I want to start before we get into it with first I want to talk to you, Melanie, first, because you've seen this movie before. So this is actually the second time you've seen this, and I think it's really interesting because when I finished watching this, my first thought was this movie would be much better if I watched it again, because it had a lot of complexities to it and a lot of references which I think I missed the first time around.
Yeah.
So how was the experience for you watching it a second time?
So Amit dug up my old written review before I even had a YouTube channel from 2017. And so I think I watched this film too early in my Malayalam film watching, the first time to really appreciate it. I was blown away seeing Angamali Diaries, and so then of course I was looking for other Lijo Jose Pellissery, and this is so different. I watched City of God, which I also really enjoyed with P.S.Rafeeque. But I think now that I have 6 more years of watching Malayalam films, I've seen, I don't know, like 130 Malayalam films now. I get there's a lot more of, oh, look how young Chimon Jose is in this. And he's got hair even. And like, oh, there's that woman that I've seen so many, like there's so many character actors in this. And so I had much more joy instead of this is just a whole bunch of people I have no idea who they are. Like and that's probably the way the audience in Kerala felt about it, right? When they were watching it, and one of the reasons why it's so beloved. It's set in this village and everybody is, these bizarre little characters, supporting characters and everything. And Joy Matthew is the very stern, priest and everything. Mm-hmm. But what I really enjoyed seeing it again is I've seen Indrajith in so many films.
Yes.
And I don't think he's ever been sexier as this priest. Like, I did not fully appreciate it the first time. And I'm like, woo!
I love a movie with a hot priest. That's always good.
Oh, man, the hot priest, dancing.
I love too. They always have the scene where the hot priest comes on the scene. And you see everyone's heads turn, and you see them going, "Oh, I'm going to church."
Yes.
I mean, it'll be hard to overcome the Fleabag hot priest. That was just the
ultimate.
But this was pretty close.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's nice because Indrajith is so often overshadowed by his brother P.S.Rafeeque, who is known as this leading actor, right? And so I appreciated much more. I'm like, oh, great, Indrajith is not just playing some cop who is a supporting character or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like that we've seen him in so many other things. I'm like, here he gets to really steal the show, even from Fahadh Faasil, I would say. I mean, they're kind of co-leads in a way. I mean, if you measure screen time, maybe Fahadh Faasil has more just because of all the clarinet playing, but
clarinet right up there with the guitar.
All right, hey, listen, Kathy, I played clarinet in school, so I really appreciated. I was
nice. I've met so many people play clarinet now. It's weird. I'm like, is it because of this movie?
There's a lot of them in school bands, but I mean, whoever was actually playing the clarinet for these different musical numbers was exceptionally good. So, and I just, having seen so many other Malayalam films, I also just really appreciated that the soundtrack of this movie is really awesome. I mean, from the beginning where you have the animated title sequence, that opening title sequence song right at the beginning is so catchy. So I'm still not going to say this is my favorite Lijo Jose Pellissery film, but I enjoyed it much more on a second viewing. I mean, had been so long that I'd forgotten a lot of the key plot points, so I was still kind of surprised again watching. Like, I had forgotten the whole. I mean, the movie's been out 10 years, so we can say spoilers. But I had forgotten the whole thing of that Indrajith was actually the saint come back to save the church and do everything, right? I thought that was kind of a clever thing at the end where the real guy actually and repeats everything that the saint had done. I'd like a lime soda, all of that, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, I just think it has so many crazy camera angles.
The camera was working overtime. Yes.
Yeah.
It was
I was impressed with the tech. I mean, it seemed like a little small character study, but he did a lot of really incredible camera work. Like you said, that there was like turning the camera upside down while it falls down the doorway, like kind of crazy acrobatic that you do not expect in a movie like this. So I was like, whoa, it's really in this movie. When I watched it, I was like, this would be so at home with Wes Anderson. This had the same, the quirky, fun, like the opening scene with the whole gold package. Is full on Wes Anderson.
God, that was hilarious.
So that was real. I'm like, first time watching it, okay, I'm expecting the serious film, and I'm watching it going, what is happening in this movie?
That caught me off guard.
So funny. I thought that was so cute. But yeah, I really liked this sort of impish feel. It would never took itself too seriously. I love the clarinet player who's like the one to beat.
Right.
The one who comes
Oh my God, what a personality.
So good. Oh my God. He comes in, he's like, I'm rock and roll. He comes in, that's right.
I'll take 2 bottles of toddy, please.
That was funny.
I love it so much. But it had so much more energy than I expected. It never took itself too seriously, but it had emotion. And I liked the sort of shy, though I got a little impatient. There I am with the shy loserdom of Fahadh Faasil going to the girls' window and playing. I'm like, come on, dude, make your move. So a little bit of that was happening, but it was still very sweet and cute, and you knew that he was having trouble, and it was cute to see him kind of come alive at the end. And it was just the fact they have a clarinet battle was already hilarious. Like that's so
battle of the bands.
Oh my God. Definitely. So funny. And so I love this, that the cuteness of the whole thing was so sweet, but then it had this underlying really deep heart emotional thing to it.
I really appreciated the night scenes and thinking about how good the cinematography was of the night scenes. I think one of my favorites is when the 2 boats and the leader of the band, Papan, hears Fahad's clarinet playing and then doesn't know who it is, and then the 2 boats come together and then they do a duet together. I mean, it just really well done. I really like that. So it has like these really sweet scenes, and I agree with you. Like Fahadh Faasil is such a nebbishy. It's not a Malayalam term, that's a Yiddish term. He's such a nebbish in this movie.
He is a nebbish. You could knock him over with like breathing on him. He was going to fall down.
I mean, it's interesting thinking about, I don't know how big he was in 2013, but it's interesting thinking about, like, would he feel like, yes, the movie is about him and his story kind of drives the whole narrative, but it's like you wonder how it would be balanced in 2023. I suppose come Midleggy Nights, he still was willing to take a back seat to other characters, right?
Yeah, and that was 2014. So
could he play the hot priest instead?
Yeah. But it's really interesting because I think as I was watching this, one thing I thought of, because I watching this as your first like Malayalam movie or an early Malayalam movie, even early Indian movies, this is definitely not one that I would recommend to people to start with Indian cinema.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The storytelling is so unique and so different in that it'd probably throw you off if you're someone that, I'm just going to say Hollywood. It's definitely non-linear. It goes to places. It's probably it's just unconventional, and that's what sort of this month is going to be all about, unpacking the sort of directional style of Lijo, and sort of that's there. But yeah, you're right. Like I did also, like you guys, really sort of enjoy this. A lot of fun, It did sort of. I've not seen it, as I said before. Like they do define it as a divine comedy. So there's actually a lot of there's a lot of themes, and there's a lot of, it's actually pretty deep and complex. Sort of when you think about it, when you sort of, I think a second rewatch give you a lot, because there's sort of, it talks a lot about, the power of faith and stuff like that, and the people losing faith in miracles and overcoming obstacles and all these really nice sort of themes, which I actually really appreciated about that, because I feel like we don't really see that so much anymore. It's not a major theme in movies. We see mostly, honestly, nowadays it seems like a sort of action, crazy spectacle, explosion kind of stuff. So this really just felt different. I really enjoyed the style, because it's not much I've seen much of, and to see it like that, like you sort of mentioned Wes Anderson, Kathy, like, I mean, I was getting, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Monty Python, like,
of course,
out of England. Yeah. So a lot of sort of, it's very theatrical, and there's obviously a lot of satire in this as well, which they put into, especially poking fun. I wouldn't say poking fun, but having a go at religion, especially with the priest.
Like Life of Brian.
Yeah. Yes. So what is it? The Beautiful Life? That's the other one, or something? Oh no, the Meaning of Life, the Monty Python one.
Meaning of Life. Yes.
Yeah, Meaning of Life. That's the one that has. But this one, like, because the whole thing with the priest coming back, and you get to see, it's like, if because you don't see it the first time, but then I thought about it afterwards, like, wait, there's a scene where the elder priest, played by John Matthew, he's telling, like, what are you dressed as? Why is a t-shirt and jeans or whatever you're wearing, chinos, and you realize you're talking to a saint now. So you realize it's kind of making fun of the whole thing about Christianity, like about dressing up. And obviously there's some references that went over my head, because I'm not Christian, I'm not overly religious either, and I understand that. Like, I think the name Solomon, and like, I think he's like, I think the priest, Indrajith's character is St. George or something like that. And so there's obviously some references that they've used from Christianity and Christian related material, a lot of stuff. But yeah, it was just an absolute blast. And you're right, like the performances, like Indrajith, I was so happy to see him, like you, Melanie. I mean, the scene that really got me was like when he was dancing in that dance number by himself. They're not overly complicated moves. Like, they're pretty simple. But to see him with his two sort of colleagues, just sort of,
all right, and then
dancing.
later to have sort of a sexy love montage, and he is the priest. We know that, like, in the beginning, we don't know he's a priest, but then, like, it's like, almost like the French girl is like fantasizing about him. I'm like, okay.
Yes. I know. I was like, what?
I'm on this ride with you. Okay.
Yeah.
But it is something that's really unique. I remember when I watched, kind of my first Malayalam film that had a reference to Christianity, and I didn't realize that Kerala is really unique, and that it's split kind of third Hindu, third Muslim, third Christian. And it's the only really Indian films where you see so much Christianity. And frequently in Malayalam films, the priest has such a control over a village, and it's often that there's a mocking. I mean, I think about like a film like Joji, right? Where they have the priest just trying to assert his control, but it's ridiculous, So, there's often a poking at that authority figure that, and you think about how this, the senior priest of this church, like, he's obviously got some side thing with the contractors or whatever, kickbacks or whatever, to get the church rebuilt and everything. And it's like how much oversized influence that they have in these communities, which is not the way it is in America. Like, maybe that's the way it was in Ireland back in the day or whatever, right? But it's not. It's definitely not that way here. So it's just a very, it's a very.
I will say though, this is 1700s. Like, so it is kind of a period piece. I think it's 1700s.
That's true.
At the start of the scene, they have which is actually, because like they have, I think it's Tipu Sultan. Like, I think they have, like, because they're at the very start.
I mean, I think they're showing the origin of the church, but I think the rest of it is supposed to be modern day.
You're right. Yes, you're right.
The clarinet.
The clarinet is not an ancient. Yeah, the clarinet is not an ancient.
No.
Yeah, but you're right. But there is the flashback scene kind of showing the origin of why the church is why that particular saint is the patron saint of this church and everything. But I love that one thing about Lijo Jose Pellissery films is that even if this was a made-up village, it has such a sense of place. The same thing that can be true of Jallikattu, the same thing is true
Yeah.
of, Angomali Diaries especially, right? It's such a sense of place, and you have all of these tiny little details that just give you so much clue. And I just love so many of like the paths that are between the waterways and whatever. And there's just, even I was noted like there's a death that happens and that the grave is like watery because there's it's so shallow, right? A place like New Orleans is similar but there they do raised graves. And I was like, okay, they're digging a grave and it's going to be underwater. Like that was really interesting. But you really get a sense by the end of the movie, okay, I get this village, like I have visited you know what I mean? It's not just about the characters, it's also very much about the place.
Definitely. No. I'll make one note and I'll pass it to you, Kathy, on that sort of thing. What this movie showed really well was like the world building was really good. Like you got a sense of the small town, you understood everything. They had different characters. They have a guy who just stays in a coconut tree, and he's just providing commentary. And you have like the small little stories that happen, little subplots between the like Fahadh Faasil's band member and his sister and stuff like that. So they're doing
the baritone player, the crazy flipped hair.
The flaky, he's actually, I forget his name, but he's not one of these character actors that's in a lot of movies. So seen him around quite a bit as well. But so they did a good job of just immersing you into this world that they're in. But I guess, Kathy, what do you think about this? Because you mentioned about a little bit about the camera angles and the look of this movie. I mean, for me, I was blown away just by the visual scenery in this. So what did you think about how this movie looked, sounded, felt? Like it just had a cool feel. What were your thoughts on that?
Because a movie like this can go really, like, I'll mention Wes Anderson again. It gets kind of a fake whimsy about it. Like he's very stylized, and it doesn't feel real. You feel like you're seeing something really artificial, but also very entertaining. It's just his style. This has the whimsy, but it feels authentic.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of that's like the beautiful cinematography, the music that is perfect in every place they put it. It gives the scene its tone, and not overplaying it. Except for the end, which is supposed to be overplayed. But I love that, and the people, like you said, you just feel like you're immersed in this village, and you get to know the people. Like you're recognizing the people in the village, and everyone has their little quirk. Like they don't really even waste a side character, like you were saying, like the guy in the tree. That was like kind of the funny. I love that you think it's like, oh, God sent us a message. Oh no, it's just that guy in the tree. I love that. So I thought that was really funny, and the fact that you were invested. So hard to do this too. You start appreciating, so invested in the priest storyline and the unrequited love or lust that the girl is having for him, and then the same parallel track of Fahadh Faasil and his unrequited love for his his love. And so you have this running theme, and then you have the whole, can he succeed in the end? Can he find his mojo in the end? And you're like, and then you see the guy, you're like, there's no way. You see his competition, you're like, no way is he gonna win this. But I love that you already know exactly where you are and what it is and what the stakes are. It's so well made.
I also think about the big crowd scenes because like you're seeing all these individual people that you've come to know are in the crowd, but just thinking about how chaotic some of those band competition scenes probably were, or the religious processions and things like that. And that's kind of a hallmark with Lijo Jose Pellissery. If you think about the 11-minute tracking shot at the end of Angomali Diaries, that was like this huge religious procession and all of these crowds and extras. So he has a talent, like, because it feels so real because we're in the middle of it, right? Like it doesn't feel artificial, like, hey, everybody yell right now. You're like, Kathy knows what I'm talking about. So many Hollywood movies where like School of Rock is the first musical competition, and you're just imagining, like they have this audience full of extras, and they're like, yell now or whatever, right? Like it feels,
look excited,
right? And this feels completely organic, like, and the way he does the camera, we are in the middle of the crowd, we're in the middle of it, right?
Beautifully. I don't know how he did it. Right? You're like, where is the camera crew right now? Like there's more than one guy at the camera. There's like people.
Yeah. No, and the thing
point too, like I'm not religious at all, like at all. So watching this movie, I enjoyed it on the level. I didn't have to catch all the subtext. I still loved just the human aspect of it. So when I first heard like, oh, it's about this, priest and some who called Amen, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you watch it, and like, oh my God, this movie was not even religious, really. I mean, technically, it was about a lot of other things. It did have that subtext.
No.
I love the whole thing, but I enjoyed it just as an observer of like human behavior. Like that was great, just on that and beautiful filmmaking.
Yeah.
So it totally worked for me, even though I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
And
no,
also,
it's very true. Sorry, go for
I was just going to say a music note, like the American song "The Saints Go Marching In." It's like when you think about it at the end. I mean, the band plays it at one point, and I'm like, oh my God, we didn't even realize how apropos that was, right? But also, you guys may not have caught, but frequently when there was sort of a tussle, like for instance, when is it Shoshana is Fahadh Faasil's love interest, when she kind of blows up at her family table and dumps curry on people's heads and stuff. Like the background score music was the background score music was from the opera Carmen, and so it was like,
it is right.
it's
like very, very,
and I loved it. And then I was like, oh, that's a one-off. No, but it kept coming back when there was kind of these big battles, and it just created this huge sense of drama. I thought that was awesome.
That's really
it was really well done. No, you're right. It's come back to the point where everything feels very immersive. And I mean, the thing I really liked about that sort of final sort of clarinet, I guess the Battle of the Bands, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
I was thrown off a little bit because I was thinking, because I'm so used to seeing it in Hollywood and how they would do it. It's like, contestant 1, do your thing. Contestant 2, do your thing.
Right.
You've seen it in so many, like, I don't know, those like dance movies or like a sister act and stuff like that. Stuff like that. It's like, hey, 1, 2, you go. Oh, you won now. It's like this was like it just happened, and then like it was like day 1's finished. I'm like, wait, what happened in day 1? So it threw me off a little bit like that. But then I realized that okay, fine, that's what it feels like because you're in the rush. So the directors have done a really good choice here to actually make you feel that on all levels. So I mean, the ending was fantastic in this. But before we get to that though, what do you guys think? Because there are like so many plots that happen in this, right? As you mentioned, there's the love story, but there's also like the whole, Fahadh Faasil living up to his father's name and stuff like that. Like, I mean, there was a lot of story, obviously the priest one that was going on as well. So they pack in a lot. How did you guys find navigating through this story in terms of pacing, the structure? Which storylines were you enjoying more? Which ones were you like thinking, okay, I don't really enjoy this one as much? There's a lot of characters, so sometimes I was getting a bit thrown off to understand who is who, because it's packing a lot, as I'm saying. That's why I think like a second or third viewing would make this movie just really good, because you'd be like, now I can just focus on that one.
I definitely think this is a movie. I think this is a movie made for repeat viewings, right? Because it's packed in with so many. Like, there's just like if you think about it, like there's this whole little subplot of Chimbunvana Joe's speaking, I think it's to his mother through his farts, and like she understands what he's saying. Like, it's so weird. But I mean, I'm just saying there's all these little side things that are threaded through, right? And it's not just a one-off, and you're like, so yeah, there is a lot. And I do think that's one reason why I enjoyed it more the second time, because I agree with you on the first viewing, and especially if you're not familiar with all of these character actors from Malayalam cinema, that you're like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. There's too many characters, too many. But it is, he's trying to give us the sense of this whole village, right? It's not just about Fahadh Faasil's character. It's not just about this battle of the priests. Everyone is involved in everybody's business. Everything is, so it has to be the totality of everyone, but it is kind of a lot. It is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and also like, because it's a visual feast as well, right? So your senses are on like overload, because it's like, well, there's music coming in here. I'm seeing this beautiful river on the side, and this beautiful church in the backdrop, and you're seeing a concert scene, and there's storylines happening, and shows like Susana is throwing like curry on the father's face, and like then she's being locked up. Then we're seeing a death. It's like, whoa, man, this is a lot. Like, it really did a lot. How about you, Kathy? How was that experience? Because as I just said, there's like so many things to like think back on this movie. Like, and I'm sure I missed a ton of things.
Oh yeah, no, I did. I mean, again, I'm always all up for a hot priest storyline, and I think that's already the Will There Won't They. I love that one. Again, it just brought me back to Fleabag, so I was instantly on board with Andrew Scott. But I think part of it was I fall in love with the idea of the impossible relationship. Can they transcend it? Will they transcend it? Will they put themselves, ahead of what's better for everyone, or they and I don't want to say selfish, because I think everyone should find their happiness no matter what, no matter what expectations people have. But I think that storyline, and then compiled with Fahadh Faasil's storyline, and you see these two romantic stories, and that's sort of where I was with this movie. I was looking at it almost as like a love story kind of thing. And the will they or won't they is an ongoing trope that never gets old. I mean, if you have that going on in a movie or in a series, like X-Files is a perfect example, Mulder and Scully, like that went on for like 10 seasons, will they or won't they? And once they did, it was over, right?
Yeah.
So that's such a great little hook, having that. And then knowing that probably the Fahadh Faasil storyline should be the one that works, but you're still not even sure that is going to work. So
yeah.
I really liked it just on the love story aspect, but then also I liked the little like sort of peanut gallery that's surrounding everyone that always had an opinion about everything. Always had an opinion. So I thought that was very cute also. So even though it has an epic overarching themes, like, standing in your father's shadow, trying to find confidence, it's like, the building of the church and the community, and like all of those things were real important, but the hot priest was where I was.
I mean, I think about it. You have the